Nina Engelhard, welcome to the Freetrail podcast. It's very nice to meet you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan, and thanks for the invitation. Nice to meet you too.
I was just saying to you that in all the episodes of the podcast that I've done with so many different guests, I know probably the least about you than I do about anybody else. There is not a lot of information about you that's easily accessible on the internet. So I'm very excited to just learn a little bit more about your story. I start all these conversations in the same place. Nina, you're prepared for this. My opening question for you is, what makes you you? Introduce us to Nina Engelhard. What are some of your unique attributes and how do they show up in your life?
So what makes me me is, I guess, that I'm at peace with myself and that I know what I want, and more often also that I know what I do not want. And yeah, you can call it a strength or a weakness, but that I get my own way in life and yeah, in general, follow my life as it suits me best. Yeah, maybe therefore I have a great feeling for what I want and what I need, and I'm a very spontaneous person and responds to my needs. And yeah, I guess that this characteristics also depict in my training structure or in my daily life, and also in the way I handle or even not handle social media. And yeah, therefore I'm also a very honest person and say what I think and what I need.
Awesome. What a perfect place to start. And I'm sure we're going to find ways to weave that back into our conversation. But just starting with I'm at peace with myself. What a gift. What a gift that is. So maybe let's start before we go back in time, just with where you're at now. Of course, coming off a double world championship. How are you processing this monumental life achievement?
Well, I guess I haven't processed this too much already because I mean, I had 1 week of vacation after the championships, but since Monday I'm back at work and there are still so many requests and interviews and podcasts. And I don't know, in my hometown where I live, they want to have meetings. And yeah, it's still much too much. What confronts me, and then there's work next to it, and actually I want to train again. Yeah, so it's still very, very much. And for myself, I didn't realize it already.
Yeah, in our email exchange, you said that you had taken some time off, turned your phone off, which I
Yes.
think relates back to your opening answer. Tell me about the decompression, the vacation after the World Championships.
It was great. My mom and my dad, they were at the championships with our camper. And after Sunday evening, I just got into the camper and they drove me to the French Atlantic coast. And yeah, then that was when I turned my phone off, and we had some very nice late summer days there at the ocean, and just went for easy walks on the beach, and also could go bathing in the Atlantic. It was still warm enough, and yeah, it was just for relaxation and calming down.
Yeah. So I guess just going a little bit deeper on this, in our coverage at Canfranc, I sort of made a public appeal saying, hey, if anybody knows Nina, if you could please get us in touch, I would love to chat with her. And it sounds like I'm not the only person who's inundating you with requests. Of course, to me, just as an outside observer, you seem like a fairly private person. Is dealing with the media attention energizing to you, or has it been a little bit uncomfortable? Because you have sort of just immediately emerged into the spotlight.
Yeah, that's true. No, to be honest, I don't like it to be confronted with so much interest from the media and several people. So that's not my way of enjoying competitions or race results.
Okay. Well, thank you for tolerating people like me in the media, Nina. So, of course, you are going to be, speaking to a bunch of new fans now, which is a blessing, even if you're somebody who doesn't seek the spotlight. I'd love to just spend some time talking about who you are and where you came from, starting with your background. I don't know much about you. I'm sure most of the people in our audience don't either. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about your background growing up in Germany and especially how sport factored into your life.
So sport was always very important for me. My family is very sportive, but never on the competing level. However, my running career started when I went jogging with my mom, and then I took a very small K race here in my hometown. I don't know, my first time was 40 minutes, but just doing some easy jogs. That was at the age of 13, maybe. Yes, around about. And then all larger running groups around our town came to me and asked, "Oh, do you want to train with us?" And then I became a member of the PSV Grün-Weiß Kassel. That's still my home. How do you call it? Club? Maybe it's
Club.
just club, right? Yes. Since then, I did the traditional track and field stuff from 1,500 meters up to half marathon, and I was okay at it, I would say. So competing sometimes on a national level, but always like in the midfield. Yeah. The mountain running career just started 3 years ago, I would say. So I'm quite a newbie, and yeah.
Tell me about where and when trail and mountain running became an interest for you.
So I got my master's degree in 2023, yes, and I had some time after university and before starting my job, and these were the summer months, and I went on vacation very often into the Alps, and I've always liked cross and mountain running, but never done those races because they were always too far away. And I took the chance of these 3 months to do some races in the Alps. I guess in Switzerland one, and the Großglockner mountain run, and then one very prestigeful mountain run in Germany. And I was very, very successful, and like one with 2-3 minutes in advance of the next women. And then like the mountain and trail running members or fans that came to me and asked, "Oh, what's about European Championship last year?" And I was like, "Okay, if you think I'm good enough." And then I took the qualification race in the beginning of 2024, and it was also very successful.
Yeah.
Just competed at the European Championships last year, and also won double gold.
Yeah.
I mean, this year, the World Championships, it was too much in a too short time, definitely. But somehow I found my space in the running world, and I'm so happy with running the mountain.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's come back to that in a second. But it feels like it might be a good time to come back and talk about your club that you just mentioned. As I was soliciting people to make the connection between you and I, a couple of people messaged me and said, "You'll probably have better luck messaging her club because, of course, you don't have a digital footprint," which I also want to talk about. You just made the comment that it seems like you've been a member of this club since you were a teenager. So I'd love to hear more about it and what role it's played in your success.
Well, it was always a great group of people there. They're not just training partners, but also friends up to today. Even some left the club because they founded a family, or running wasn't that important anymore for them. But still, I have so many contacts there, and many became very important friends in my life. Even when I left Kassel and the surrounding area for studying, I was always connected to my club, and every time I came home, I was training with them. I don't know, never saw a reason for leaving the club and looking for another. That's very important for me because it's so a stable constant in my life.
Yeah. Can you explain it a little bit more to me? Is it a local club for your community? And if so, tell me about the region where you live and the structure of the club and what you guys do together. Is it more of a track and field club doing workouts? And I'd love to hear how they've responded to your transition to trails.
I live in a smaller village near Kassel. That's in the north of Hesse, so right in the middle of Germany. The club PSV Grün-Weiß Kassel is here a very big and rather successful running club for Kassel. Most of them concentrate on races on the street, so like 10K, half marathon, marathon. But my trainer always lay high importance on cross races, for example, in the winter months. So we also have contact with this. Yeah, since I'm doing mountain running, I do not train that much with the group because, as I said, most of them concentrate on the street. However, they support me in anything I want to do. When I'm there in winter months, for example, all have to do hill sprints when I'm doing hill sprints, and I don't know if they like me for it, but it's still a great group feeling. Yeah.
And now they've got a double world champion on the team. How special. Yes. Okay, so talking about your digital footprint or lack thereof, in today's world, it's hard to exist without various social media profiles. And as far as I can tell, you're not on Instagram, you're not on Strava. Tell me about the intention behind that.
I just don't like to present myself in the open, and I don't like to compare with others or see what others are training and where they are, because I'm working full time next to my training. So I earn my money by working, and I'm not dependent on posting a certain content or advertising for someone. Yeah, I just don't like the comparison, or that anybody can see what I'm doing and that I'm feeling better or worse because I'm doing more or less or different. And I just don't like it. I was never the type for this, and so I don't see any sense for presenting myself on social media.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's certainly something that I admire, and it makes you different in an important way, I think. But I have to imagine that it's something that you cultivated within yourself. I mean, you started our conversation by saying, I'm at peace with myself and I don't need this outward presentation in order to make me feel whole or important and successful as an athlete. Has there been any tension there? Have you ever had to grapple with, especially now with your rising profile in the sport and the temptation maybe to be more forward facing?
Well, actually not. I think when I explain my reasons for being just for myself, people more or less accept it. And I mean, no one can force me to be more present or to be more in the public. So no, I don't see any conflicts.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a conflict at all. But I don't know. To me, having that personal intention and anchoring yourself through intrinsic motivation and not through, elevating your personal profile. I don't know. I think it is a different orientation that a lot of people are taking here in 2025, where there is such a temptation to be active on the internet. And actually reminds me, even in looking at photographs from the uphill and the classic race of the world champs, I don't even think you're wearing a watch. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, no, because I mean, in competitions, at least in the mountains, never, because all courses are so different. And if I would see like in half of the race, I have this and this time, I would say like, okay, I can't compare it to anything. Though, I mean, that's what I also love about mountain and trail running, that you can't compare anything, and times and distances and yeah, the race tempo, it doesn't matter. And that's what I love about it. And yeah, this also depicts, or is depicted in my training, because there are so many runs. I do not wear a watch, or I do not like have a record of my training over the last months or years, because I'm like more or less hearing what my body tells me what to do or what I feel like, and I don't need the records of anything, of my heart rate or pace or whatever.
So interesting. And it feels so liberating to be free of the trappings of that technology and to be really just in tune with yourself and your own sensations. So after the classic race, I was asking just some people about you, whether anybody had any information about you, your background, etc. And very few people did, but I heard that you also do have a pretty involved job, and you've mentioned it now a couple of times. You're not a professional athlete. Tell me about your professional life. What do you do for a living?
So I am an environmental engineer at the German Autobahn, so in the planning and building of highways.
Wow. How does that complement your athletic life? It feels like maybe that's very analytical, and then on the opposite side, you take your watch off, you throw the phone away, and you just are free for your run training. Is that more or less accurate?
Yeah, that's definitely accurate, and maybe it's the combination of both what makes me happy, because the days now after the championships, I'm so happy to being back at work and doing straightforward analytical work, and can be busy and have a plan what to do, and then in my free time I even more enjoy it to just do what I want, and being free. Yeah, maybe that's really the combination. Never thought about it that way.
Have there been any fun and interesting interactions with your colleagues after earning double gold at the World Championships and then returning back to work
Yeah,
after a
yeah.
short vacation?
Yeah, they greeted me back so heartily and so warm-hearted. It was so sweet on Monday. Really, really. They designed a special street sign for me, because we are in the building of highways, and it was like a street sign depicting the mountain logo, and my both running, my winning times, and yeah, they were very sweet. They decorated our room with balloons and all stuff.
Oh, that's so awesome. Congratulations. All right. So, coming back to what you mentioned a bit ago, in looking at your results, it seems to me like the European Championships in 2024 was sort of your first major breakout as a pure trail and mountain running athlete. Double gold, as you said, also in the uphill and the classic disciplines. Can you just tell me a little bit about your experience at the European Championships last year? To what extent maybe you surprised yourself there, how it changed the way you viewed your capabilities in the sport?
For me, it was a great honor just to start for the German national team, because if you would have asked me this a few years ago, I would never have dreamed of like competing on an international level. And then like winning 2 gold medals, it was just overwhelming. And I didn't believe in this. I don't know what others thought about my ability after the races before, but I've never dreamt of it. And I'm having so much fun in my daily training that I'm don't put myself under so much pressure before competition. So when I'm at the starting line, I'm more or less not thinking like, oh, you can be place 1, 2, 3 today, but more like, whoa, you had a great time training, so do your best today, and we will see where we get to.
At peace with yourself.
Yes, more or less.
After the double gold, assuming it was at least a little bit of a surprise, at that point, did you transition and start thinking about the World Championships?
I mean, like with winning 2 gold medals at the European Championships, my start at the World Championships for the next year was more or less clear. I just had to do one race, like proving this year that I'm still there and still can run.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the World Champs as my next big goal, but there it was even more difficult for me to like guess where I can place myself, because I as nobody knows me, I'm also very bad at comparing to other running women, because I don't know them in the trail and mountain running, especially runners from Africa. I don't know their names, I don't know the faces, and therefore it was very difficult in the format for me to know where I can land there in the end.
Yeah. Okay. So, coming to your training, where it's clear you're having a lot of fun, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about how your training has changed since you've started to specialize a little bit more as a trail and mountain runner versus a track and cross country runner.
So basically, I was always a person who does very much of cross training. So I love biking, I love swimming, I love rowing. My running kilometers per week are very few. So I mean, I do not have a record, but I never run more than, I guess, like 50 to 70 kilometers a week, because I'm doing so much alternative sport. The changes coming from like more street races is definitely that I watch fewer on my watch, or have even fewer records or looks on times for or pace for runs. Rather, I have to think about it, but there aren't any flat jogs in my daily running, so some height meters are always there, I would say, and that's also different to before.
Share a little bit about how you balance all these different sports: cycling, swimming, rowing. I mean, because That's obviously a different approach than most of the athletes you are competing against.
Yeah, but I decide on a daily basis, I would say. I mean, I know the general structure of a training. So if I had a hard day, the next day it's clear that I'm doing something easy, but I can't say in the evening before what I'm doing the next day. So let it be an easy jog or going for an easy bike or even swimming. That's just a daily decision for me. And yeah, there I hear very much what my body tells me what feels best.
Well, then maybe you could walk us through an example of like a key session that you were doing before the World Championships. Like one of these sort of one of the things that you know are indispensable to performance for the specific demands of the race. Yeah, you can go for an easy ride or go for an easy swim, but what were sort of the most key sessions leading up to both the vertical and the classic?
I would say there were three key sessions or types of key sessions I did several times. First of all, like classic intervals going uphill. I mean, we're in the mid of Germany here, so there aren't that long and steep slopes here to go uphill. But my favorite trail here is like 1 kilometer with 100 meters of height. And when doing intervals, I was doing it like 5 to 7 times or something about this. So yeah, very classical, I would say, for uphill training. Then I also did like tempo runs or very fast runs where steep uphills came after steep downhills just to get to know or just to get familiar with this change in elevation. So going uphill and downhill, and this on a on a high speed, like more for an endurance weight training. We have here the Hercules Bergpark. There are like, I never have counted them, but 350 of steps on a stair. So you can go like 120 meters in height there. And I was just marching, but with a backpack of weights. Yeah, this is like a fourth strength training, but also combining endurance. And yeah, if you took the stairs like, I don't know, 10 to 12 times, yeah, that was also a key session in my training before the World Champs.
Nina, I'm sure you don't know this, just given the personality and your disposition, which I'm growing to appreciate now after 25 minutes. But what our audience, I'm sure, is thinking is that there's now been a theme of people using weight vests and who are then crowned champions. Both Tom Evans and Ruth Croft talked about it after UTMB, and it seems like it's just as valuable for the shorter distance races as well.
Yeah, maybe. So I got the input of doing training like this from my neighbor who is an how do you call it, orienteering
Yes.
runner? Do you say
Yeah.
that? Yes. And it was his idea, so he's often accompanying me. But funny to know that other trail runners are using this method also.
Yeah, and of course, orienteering is now all the rage in the trail running conversation after Tove
Definitely, yes.
Alexanderson and Freddie Trenchard. And it actually makes me want to maybe draw a contrast here. Of course, the men's uphill champion was Remy Bonnet, and we did a post-race interview with him, and he talked about how the treadmill has become a really valuable tool in his training, a really easy way to dial in a specific grade and intensity and simulate it. My guess is that you're not the type of person that jumps on the treadmill and does intervals, just based on our conversation so far. Is that accurate?
Yeah, funny that you mentioned this interview because I heard it in preparation for your podcast just to get to know you and your type of podcast. And when Remy was saying this, I was like thinking, oh God, I'd never in my life would go on a treadmill. Never.
It's so funny, isn't it? Because you both achieved world championship performances with a very different style of training and also a very different personality. And it works well for Remy in his case, and it works well for you on the opposite side of the spectrum. I think it's something that's hopefully liberating for our audience to hear, is just like, yeah, you can be successful in a number of different ways as long as that strategy aligns with who you are at your core, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, people are so different, so also the approaches for training can be very different. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's spend some time and talk about the races themselves. The uphill, from my perspective, I've never done a vertical race myself, but it seems like just full gas from the start, not a lot of strategy. Is that more or less the case? Or what were your sort of, was there a strategy going into it? Or was it just sort of like go off the front and try and hang on?
I'm always not that a fast starter, so I use the first meters or even kilometers to just get a feeling of the field and how the other girls are competing or are starting the race. But it's all my mountain races so far. The beginning is rather flat, and then we come to the trail where the steep slope begins, and I feel like, okay, even if I'm starting easy, I have to go in front because I need to do my own pace. And so it was the same here at the championships. Trail was starting, and I was like thinking, okay, I have to look for the first possibility to go in front because then I can only that pace. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a sort of 13, 15-second lead at the checkpoint halfway up. You are, of course, at the front of the race there and sort of in control, at least from, again, just my perspective as an observer. It makes me want to come back and talk about the lack of a watch and knowing yourself and dialing into the right intensity for you without getting that digital feedback of your heart rate, of your pacing. How are you evaluating your energy expenditure during a race like the uphill, like without that feedback? Because again, I think it is different for most of the professional athletes.
That's true, but it's also a very difficult question for me, to be honest. Well, I mean, I knew the half point because there was the station where we could get drinks and stuff. So, I mean, you could like place you where you are at the race and how far it is. I knew that the steepest slope was like in the end, and I'm not that afraid of walking or speed hiking a few steps when I don't feel like running anymore. That's also very important for me because then always I feel like my heart rate goes really, really down. I can relax my muscles in my legs a little bit. And that was definitely something I had to learn, that walking or speed hiking in a race is okay and is something you really can do. But yeah, I often do this. And that's maybe also part of yeah, dividing my energy for the whole race.
So you won the event, and I think it was about 45 minutes. I don't have the official time, but it was
Yeah,
about
something like this.
Yeah, about 25 seconds in front of silver medalist Susanna Sapunki. What was the feeling of winning your first world championship? And then how did it impact your feelings about your prospects for the classic 2 days later?
Well, to be honest, the race on Thursday was really, really tough for me. I would also say it was the hardest race of my life so far because my legs just didn't feel that well from the beginning on. I don't know why, because I didn't do too much in the days before. I just didn't feel well, so it was a real fight in the goal. I was just thinking like, oh, I'm here, I can stop running. That was my first thought. Then like winning it, and that Susanna didn't come nearer. Always in the race, I felt like, okay, she's directly behind me. She will go, or she will pass me in a few seconds, and that never happens. That was also very good feeling then in the end. But as I said, I was just happy that it was over on Thursday. And yeah, therefore, knowing I have to compete on Sunday again was really tough for me in the next 2 days, because I was thinking, like, I don't know if I can push myself that hard again when I'm feeling that bad. Was more or less, it was more mentally hard to prepare for the race on Sunday than for my legs, because I did an easy bike ride on the next day and an easy jog on the day after. So my legs were feeling okay then, but my head was like, okay, I don't know if I want to run again or doing something that hard again. But yeah, luckily the race on on Sunday was so different, and I felt so good from the beginning on. So yeah, my fear was rather not. It didn't came to be true.
Yeah, it was clear you were feeling really good in the classic, and I want to hear about it. But dwelling for a second on the space in between the races, as you said, it was more about getting mentally primed than physically primed. This has sort of been a theme of our conversation so far about just who you are and being at peace with yourself and your position, both in the sport and in life in general. Was there anything that you did in the 48 hours in between the races to help you refocus and get that mental energy back?
Yeah, just spending very much time with myself. So we had a river that was very cold near the hotel, and I took walks to the river, and I was doing ice baths and just spending time with me and myself. And uh, look that much on my phone because I was still overwhelmed by all the messages and requests. So that was also not positive for me in this moment. Yeah. So just taking time for myself, as I always do when trying to refocus.
Nina, you're such an inspiration. I'm going to try and adopt your lifestyle here when we get off of this podcast. I need to go spend more time just with myself, with my phone slammed in a drawer, and just reconnect with the inner Dylan. Anyway, the classic, super, super impressive performance. You had a gap within the first half of the first lap. I remember when you came through the first lap, everybody who was there in Canfranc was just surprised as to how large it already was halfway through the race. Was that the strategy? Did you attack the first climb, hoping that you were going to be able to establish an early lead?
So my strategy actually was to go a very easy first lap and like more look what can I go in the second lap. But on the first uphill, I felt like, okay, I can go in front, and I knew that I am strong in the uphill, and I just I wasn't that confident in my ability to go a fast downhill. But then I got the times from spectators, and they were like, after the first downhill, they were like telling me, "Oh, your distance to the second woman is just became larger." And I was like, "Okay, even after the downhill." And then I was like very confident for the second lap because I felt great. I knew that uphill is just my kind of territory, and the first lap showed that I can also run a fast downhill, and the second lap therefore was just great and just fun, and I could go like my pace and have fun and enjoy the atmosphere and the landscape, and that was just fantastic.
So of course you did more than just hang on in the second lap. You won by almost 2 minutes, which is a very significant margin in a race of that distance, especially with a world championship field. Were you surprised by the gap, or did you surprise yourself with that performance? It sounds like if you evaluate it against the uphill, you feel like the classic race was a much stronger performance for you?
It was a stronger performance in reality, but if you would have asked me before, I would have said my strength is in the uphill, or in the uphill only. And therefore, I surprised myself very much in having more fun and being even more successful in the classic than in the uphill, definitely.
So I was trying to go back in history and see when the last time it was that somebody won double gold in the uphill and the classic in the same world championship. And I'm not sure it's ever happened. You may know another example, but it doesn't seem like you're the type of person that dwells on this stuff, but have you had a moment to reflect on this amazing achievement? If it is in fact true that you're the first person to win double gold in the world championship, that must feel enormously gratifying.
Yeah, it's gratifying, but it's also, I don't know, it's also a bit scary because I do not feel that special or like, being at the top of the world. It's just, no. As I said before, I haven't realized it for myself. So I can't think about that it's the first time in history that it happens. It's just unbelievable.
Amazing. Well, I hope you're very proud and you have a chance to celebrate it. I'd love to close our conversation here by just talking about the future. Of course, winning double gold at the World Championship will open up a lot of new opportunities, including the potential of maybe being a full-time professional athlete. Does that interest you at all?
I had a podcast 2 days ago, and the guy asked the same question, and I was like, yeah, it's attractive. Or when you know other people who are training full time and living in the mountains, it's definitely attractive, but they always have like those, I don't know, the pressure from outside to maybe have social media because sponsors are they need the advertisement, and I never want to do this. I don't want to give up my job because I'm loving it, and I, even if I just say I take 1 year off, I don't know if I can come back in the same position, and I don't want to lose it. It's a very short time after the world champs, and I can't decide it now, but in the moment, I would say I will do it as I have been doing it the last years because it works for me. And I see so far no point in changing this.
You don't have to reveal anything that is private information, but have you started receiving interest? Or like, have people been reaching out to you to assess whether or not you might want to take this a little bit more seriously and maybe pursue it professionally? I mean, from like a brand level.
Yeah, of course they
Yeah.
have, but so far I put them on pause and say, oh, I need some time to think about this.
It's so cool, Nina. That's so cool. I mean, just to have that internal discipline and that comfort with yourself and being at peace with yourself to the extent to where, because that is a very tempting thing, right? It would be easy for you to jump at the first opportunity to quit your job, to move to the mountains and just be a full-time professional athlete. But you also need to do what feels best for Nina, because that's what has led to you being a double world championship. I think it's really inspiring and something that we can all aspire to do better in our lives. Did the world championship make you feel differently about what your future goals might look like as an athlete, irrespective of if you are competing professionally and with sponsors? Like, what are some of the goals that you have for yourself for the rest of the season, if you do, 2026 and maybe beyond?
Well, the rest of the season there won't be that much. I'm thinking about competing in the national cross championships, but yeah, just more for fun and having a goal in the winter. Even the next years, I don't know. I want to take part in the European Championships next year, but I'm very spontaneous in my race planning and just decide a few weeks before. So I really can't say that much toward the next years. And yeah, knowing that the next World Championships are in like South Africa, I guess, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not that sure if I want this because traveling is always like kind of stressful for me. I have to take vacation from work. And I mean, 6 weeks in a year aren't that much, and spending it all on driving to competitions and races. That's also not my goal because I also have other hobbies and want to have like a real vacation. And yeah, but as I said, I haven't planned the next years any further.
So cool. Well, speaking as a new fan of yours and somebody in the media, for better or worse, I feel it would be a shame to not have the double world champion in South Africa to defend both of your titles. But of course, the decision is up to you, Nina, not up to me.
Yeah, and these are still 2 years in the future, so we will talk again about it later.
We will talk again. Well, Nina, I super appreciate your time for making, the space for people like us to get to know you a little bit more, especially after these amazing achievements. You're definitely, I don't know, you bring a unique perspective to the sport that I think is important. So, to the extent you feel motivated to continue sharing your process and your approach to the sport, I think it will probably impact a lot of people positively. I end all these conversations in the same place, which is my closing question. Who is one person that you admire? It can be inside or outside of sport, living or dead. Why do you admire that person?
Well, I guess since I'm not that much following like famous people or famous athletes and their daily life, I do not have like a star to who inspires me. But I would say I'm inspired and I admire every person who like finds or found his place in life and who radiates this happiness to the outwards, because yeah, that's inspiring for me. Even if you say you find my way of living inspiring, I always think that there are people who are even more at peace with themselves and who just can enjoy life and every moment and what life gives them. And yeah, this like radiates to the outwards. These are persons who admire me and yeah, who like remember me to enjoy every moment of my daily life.
It's a perfect way to tie the end of our conversation to the start of our conversation. Nina Engelhard, congratulations on the double gold medal, and thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.